Hello and welcome to Xena, Warrior Podcast. My name is Vera and I'm joined, as always, by my two Amazonian co-hosts, Katie and Livy.
That's quite a word.
Yes, it is brought to you by our friend Nora, who generously donated to me a gigantic list of adjectives to use for you. They are random as fuck, and I will be just inserting them without thinking about it.
I don't know whether to look forward to this or to dread it.
That's
Thanks,
the correct
Nora.
answer. Yeah. Thank you very much, Nora. Well, today we are talking about 211. Here She Comes Miss Amphipolis. And it is written by Chris Mannheim and directed by Marina Sargenti.
A woman.
Yeah.
Is this the only episode written by and directed by a woman? Or no?
Without researching this, I'm going to say yes.
Well,
Because I just don't remember like that jumping out in any other episode.
or
But
certainly
I could
the
be wrong.
combination of both.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. Like this is kind of an unprecedented thing.
I mean,
for
it's
nowadays.
crazy now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
So.
I feel like it happened on the Americans. No, I don't know.
Maybe.
Some FX show.
Outlander.
Outlander.
For sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's great. That seems appropriate. Do you think
Yeah.
it's appropriate here? Is this like the episode of Xena that you would want to have written and directed by women?
I have a feeling that they were like, let's get some ladies to do this. We are afraid.
Maybe.
Well, certainly there was that interview with Chris Mannheim where Rob was like, okay, we're going to do a beauty pageant episode. Here you go. And she was like, no.
No, please.
But talking about Chris, she kind of has an interesting backstory behind her tackling of this episode. Her brother died of AIDS. Am I right?
I
in
believe
saying
so,
that?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was gay. And Miss Artifice, a character in this episode, is modeled on him.
Yeah. And this episode was nominated for a GLAAD award and lost out to The Simpsons.
So The Simpsons.
Well, what Simpsons episode beat them?
Homer's Phobia?
Olivia, this is your area.
Yeah, knowing The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen it because this is from the golden era.
This is the only time the show was ever nominated for a GLAAD award, right?
Yeah.
Because
this was their
it's-
only nomination,
I believe,
of
well-
anything.
Of anything.
Is it?
Ever? Really? Oh.
Oh, it's with the
Somebody will
episode
tell
with
us.
John Waters.
Okay, well, there you
Yes.
go.
So it also beat out South Park's Al's Big Gay Boat Ride
Okay.
and something on HBO called Drop Dead Gorgeous, a tragic comedy, The
Okay.
Power of HIV Positive Thinking,
Okay.
and then The Practice, Civil Rights. I bet the people at The Practice were pissed.
Maybe. Oh,
David
you said
Kelly.
Drop Dead Gorgeous, which made me think of my favorite movie about beauty pageants.
Yeah.
The best movie maybe of all times.
Yeah, it
Starring
had
Kirsten Dunst.
and
Oh my
Kirstie
God.
Alley,
Yes.
renowned Scientologist.
Oh my God.
I
Yes.
love it so
No,
much. I work here now.
That's our favorite quote, basically.
Oh, I love that
Honestly,
movie
if
so
you haven't
much.
seen Drop Dead Gorgeous, go for it. Unfortunately, it is from 1999, so we can't say that the Xena episode got it, their plot from this.
No.
Because it's a very similar plot. There's like the whole thing where somebody who like shouldn't be a contestant at this beauty pageant like is, and then someone's trying to sabotage this.
Who was doing it?
Yeah.
But back to this being, I think, the show's only GLAAD award, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like you can see why, because you would think that this show would have been nominated for more, but
Yeah.
at the same time, obviously, it wouldn't be, because it doesn't wear what it's doing so much on its sleeve like this episode does.
It doesn't have very special episodes.
No.
About gay rights.
Right.
Every episode is a very
And
special
I
episode.
am glad that it didn't, TBH. Just because
You're glad it didn't get a GLAAD?
No, not that way, but I just mean just because you can't define a lot of it, which would make it hard for it to be nominated for any kind of award like that.
Yeah.
Part of its specialness is its inability to be pinned down. I love this show.
And it's not trying to teach people. It never kind of
Right.
gets on a soapbox and says, this is what I'm about. It just kind of occupies the space of being what it is and kind of expects you to accept it, which is, to me, a much more effective way of educating people than saying, okay, everyone, here's what you need to know.
But then some people currently who compile lists don't include it because it wasn't ever
Right.
textual.
It's like a double-edged thing. Yeah. All right. That just reminded me of the Liz Friedman quote about subtext. Maybe we should like lead off with that, eh? So I was reading this article that kind of talks about this episode a lot, which is called Xena Warrior Princess's Feminist Camp. And there's a good quote in it from Liz Friedman where she's sort of talking about pop culture and subtext. And the quote is, I've always been a big believer in the power of popular culture. The best way to convey more challenging ideas is to make something that functions on a mainstream level, but that has a subtext that people can pick up on. Or not.
Or a subsext.
Sure.
I love Liz Friedman so much.
Yeah. So this one's not so much about subtext.
No. In this, the subtext is text in some interesting ways, and I'm excited to get into.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So I guess this is an episode about a beauty pageant.
Yes, it is.
Like the 90s really got into it. Thanks, Donald Trump. Miss America
God.
was
Did
really
you guys
popular.
watch Miss America growing
No,
up?
I've never
I
seen it.
did.
I did too.
Big time.
Really?
Yeah.
I watched everything I think we've established. So I definitely watched it and I loved it. And that's why I loved all the beauty pageant boom movies that weirdly came out late 1999, 2000, like Drop Dead Gorgeous and Miss Congeniality.
Ah, the best.
That is the one
yeah.
you almost like. This seems like the exact same plot as Miss Congeniality, right down to the person who doesn't inhabit traditional womanhood kind of.
Yeah, well, Miss
to-
Congeniality and this have like similarities in the sense that they have sponsors, kind of like Michael Caine is like her Gabrielle, sort of like teaching her how to hate. Well, I mean, Gabrielle doesn't really, but she gets into it, so there's this extra person.
Are you
who's,
supposed
like,
to ship
involved.
them, Michael Caine and Sandy?
You're supposed to ship Benjamin Bratt and Sandy in that movie, not Michael Caine. I don't think so. So I guess those writers watched this episode and copied it.
Yes.
Xena did it first.
Totally, Xena did it first.
Obviously.
All right. Let's begin the discussion proper.
Mm-hmm.
This starts off with a beautiful shot of Xena and Gabrielle on a beach. And they're kind of explaining that Salmonia sent for them. It's an urgent matter. Xena exposes about sort of like the backstory of where they are, which is that there was a really big old battle, like massive war
Very bloody.
last year.
Yeah, a year ago.
I was expecting her to do the 10 years ago, but it just didn't really,
It
yeah.
starts next episode.
I know. And I was like, oh, she was here 10 years ago too? No, it was last year.
Yeah.
She just knows about it, yeah.
Yeah, and the boat, the skeleton of a boat she points to, I thought was like a mammoth
Me
bones.
too. Like a big bones they stole
no.
from the...
It's the only evidence,
Grave.
right, of a battle.
Giant grave.
Yeah,
Never
this-
see any rubble or
No,
any sense
the town
of-
is fine. Everything, the castle's good. It's all good.
I did love that image of like a beautiful beach.
Yeah.
And Xena looks at this and says, like, all I see is, the war, the bloodshed. That's what it's like to be Xena. You go to beautiful New Zealand locations and say, something terrible happened here.
It just made me think of like one of my favorite episodes from season 6. Oh, I can't
Oh,
wait.
no, we can't talk
We
about
could
that.
but
Okay.
people know.
Yeah,
You could
people
say the
know.
name of it. You could be like,
Yeah, it's all right.
you
Stop
know.
it. Stop it.
They know just based on war and beach. So they're walking, and then suddenly Gabrielle falls on her face. What did she trip over? She tripped over some big old like ruts in the sand,
some car made.
which I don't know why she didn't see that. Like they were just right in front of her.
Let's never really explain the war wagons.
Yeah, I don't
No.
know.
There's some war wagons somewhere, just like
Yeah.
rolling up and down the beach and up and
She
down.
just needed to trip into the clams.
Yeah, that's right. Because what she finds under there is clams, and she's so fucking excited.
Oh, happy. Oh, this bitch and food. She knows what she's having for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Clams is a good choice. We'll come back to that.
Oh boy. But suddenly they hear a bunch of screaming, and we see what's making the screaming, and it is the wives from Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh my goodness,
Gosh,
yes.
yes, the costumes looked very wise from Fury Road.
They're
They
running in
watched this,
slow-mo.
obviously.
It's beautiful, TBH. Thanks for that, Marina. And really gross guys are chasing them with like gross ADR lines.
No.
I don't.
Gross
I did not write them down, but
Yeah.
you know what it is. It's gross.
And they're playing like the battle music, which I thought was really funny to be like, oh no, the male gaze is headed this way.
Yes.
How do we subvert
Yeah.
this male gaze intrusion?
Well, Xena and Gabrielle start throwing clams at the man who is chasing the ladies.
And then the clams go.
Yes, they
Make
do.
little noises.
Xena's obsessed with like
Yeah.
airborne shellfish screaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's clearly a priority in season 2.
The snake screams too later.
Oh
Yep.
boy.
I love it. That's
Really
their
Yeah.
favorite thing.
No, it's good. I mean, you do have like a female director, right? And like if you're just watching a shot of these ladies running out of context, it is kind of one of those areas where people can go, "Oh yeah, that like male gazy show." But then like you really need to like pay attention to Xena and Gabrielle throwing clams at the guy that's
But also,
following
this
them.
isn't just like titillating
No,
like,
it's
women
not.
running in slow-mo along a beach in diaphanous outfits. Like they are being chased by men. Like you're
Right.
immediately like, these poor women, someone help them. You're not like, oh yeah. You're asked to identify with the women, not with the men who are clearly threats.
Yes, A+.
I'm just gonna spoil this, but diaphanous was the next adjective that
Are you
Nora has
kidding?
prepared for you guys, so we can't
Uh-oh.
use it anymore.
I love it.
You
Thank
can
you,
still
Nora.
use it.
I'm gonna try to call you out on all your adjectives.
I was considering using it today, but then I was like, nah, I'll just use Amazonian. So then out comes Salmonius, and he's mainly worried about the costumes that these girls are in.
To be fair, the girls are worried about them too. Like a lot of the lines you hear in the background of the girls being like, "Oh no, this is torn. What am I gonna do?" Yeah.
You know, they're worried for the pageant.
Maybe the costumes have to be pre-approved, like on Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't just wear any old thing. No, the line that he says is the costumes weren't designed to take this kind of abuse, which to me at the beginning of this episode, I found that line like so telling about the episode's priorities to begin with, that like it made me kind of relax about the episode. This is where you can tell, I think, that it was written by a woman or directed by a woman. It's a joke line that is talking about women being harassed and abused, but like at the same time, I feel like it's a tell for the rest of the episode. Like the episode
gonna be
knows-
okay. Don't worry about it,
Like I feel
guys.
like the episode it knows what it's doing and it's gonna make a point.
Well, Xena's like pissed that this is what Salmonius called them urgently for, which is to watch a beauty pageant.
And not only that, she refers to the contestants as underdressed, overdeveloped bimbos.
Dang, Xena.
Strong language from Xena about this, which is odd because she just saved these women from these men who are coming after them. Not really
Yeah.
a nice way of talking about these victims.
Again, I think the theme of this episode is very similar to like certainly Drop Dead Gorgeous, which is to prove that, I mean, there was two schools of thought, like
About beauty
Yeah, the beauty
pageants.
pageant boom. One is like, these are bimbos who are parading around like in front of men or whatever, being judged by men, et cetera, et cetera.
And that
And then
they're
the other
somehow
one, yeah.
complicit in their objectification by men.
Yeah, and then the other, of course, being like, no, this is like empowering. They're doing it for their reasons, and like this is how they want to be doing it. This kind of line and this kind of thinking from Xena is like the beginning before she learns.
I don't know how in character it is. I get that they wanted this kind of arc where Xena goes from being like, these women are ridiculous, I can't be a part of this, to like, having respect for them and
Yeah.
understanding that they have their reasons for doing it and that they're legitimate reasons, and kind of accepting
I
the
would agree with
pageant
that, yeah.
as a social ill that can be used for good.
Yeah, it doesn't quite sound correct coming out of her mouth. And I don't know if maybe there's just like a mild bit of meta involved. Like, I don't think anybody thought Xena herself would be a bimbo, but like clearly one of the things people say about
Her
Xena
costume.
and her costuming is like that, they don't wear very much.
Right. Is
Yeah.
her costume designed to take that kind of abuse?
Exactly.
Oh.
I mean, it's designed to take abuse, but like not the legs part of it, because there's
no
nothing
legs.
there.
But that's so we could see her legs.
Well, on her
And
cast,
boy,
she
oh
has
boy.
covered
And they are
those.
designed to take a ton
Yeah.
of abuse. Those are some powerful legs.
That's interesting because, like you bringing up that this isn't the line that she would say naturally, like you didn't feel that way about her, makes me go, well, Xena has her vices, and that's great because that's what makes a good character. And I was like, well, she didn't really like, she doesn't like kings really. Like, she didn't want to help
That's
warrior
true. She doesn't
princess.
really
didn't
like decadence.
Yeah, she didn't
Yeah.
Diana?
Diana.
That's true.
Yeah.
She was
Like, that
very
was-
low. I was going to use Diana as an example of, oh, look, this is a woman who's very feminine, who Xena likes and understands is, a valuable person and isn't somehow complicit in a patriarchal system.
But not
or
at the
if she
beginning.
is, she doesn't falter for it.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Actually, at the beginning, she was
really,
very hostile.
Really
So it is in character.
mean.
And it's the same here. She needs to, like, get to know everyone and find out that
and then
they're
she
all
helps
very
them all.
complicated.
Like, yeah, she
Yeah.
totally gets into it.
Yeah, but then you have Gabrielle, very modern, very modern antiquities bitch, being like, what does she say exactly?
I didn't write down the full line, but I know she says something like a pageant is just an excuse to exploit and objectify women, something along those lines.
Right.
And I love Salmonius's retort, which is, since when do we need an excuse?
Right,
Yeah.
Again, there's another one. I'm
That
just
to
like,
me definitely was
Yeah.
like, a woman wrote this.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that is so witty and so funny, and who knew Salmonius had that kind of self-awareness?
Right.
Can you imagine if that wasn't something that Chris wrote? If that was like a line Rob added?
Oh my god.
It could have
He
been.
did showrunner power. It's like, I'm going to add this line.
Could have been.
So it turns out that the pageant was proposed by Lord Clarion. I forgot how Clariton? I forgot how to pronounce it.
Clear up your allergies right away. I think just Claren.
Really?
Claren?
It has an I in it, but whatever. Clarion.
Okay.
Sure, let's go with that. And he proposed the pageant to celebrate their year of peace.
He's Belgium.
Oh. He's in Belgium. All right.
He was neutral in the war from a year ago. So he's kind of like safe territory for holding this pageant for the other three previously rival warlords. Are they warlords? I guess so. They're
Yeah.
lords. We're having a war.
Yes. Yeah. They are the Doge of Messini, the Regent of Skyros, and the Palatine of Parnassus. And they signed this treaty a year ago.
And they're throwing this pageant as a celebration of peace.
Yeah.
Or, as Salmonius says, an excuse to have some merchandising, some local franchises, and some off-runway betting.
Is that a coin in the problematic jar just because he's trying to make a profit in his
mean,
Salmonius-y way?
All right, we'll throw a coin in for that. But I was just, the fact that we often have like war profiteering, and we know that's a bad thing. You're not supposed to make money off war. Salmonius is making money off peace.
Well, he makes money off of anything.
It's better than war. Oh no! Oh.
This is going to get
This
some
episode's
coins,
going to have
guys.
some coins in the jar.
Well, the warlords all entered their girlfriends into the pageant as contestants, and this is partially what's the
Are
problem
they
here.
all girlfriends?
Yeah, well, they're women.
At the beginning, that is said that they are
Yeah.
all girlfriends.
I mean,
yeah,
I think it's
each of these three
Oh.
military leaders has a girlfriend who he enters in the pageant,
okay.
and they are sponsors. I think they use this word sponsor to make it sound more businesslike.
Okay.
But those are their girlfriends, which
Yeah.
makes it really interesting that when
Yeah.
the Marchesa comes into
Oh.
Yeah.
Yay.
No one questioned that. So someone's trying to wage a war by proxy here because they're pitting these guys against each other
Okay.
via
beauty pageants.
beauty pageants.
This is an idea.
Yeah, and Salmonius' brilliant idea is to have someone on the inside as a contestant. And, first Gabrielle's like, you know how I feel about this, so no way, Jose.
Yeah, she's like, you know how I feel about women being victimized in the meat market or something?
Yeah, what
Yeah.
did that
Very
mean?
intense.
Yeah, that's very intense.
I assume that's like slavery.
Yeah. Was that what was happening to her
Yeah.
in the beginning of this show? Getting kidnapped?
Yes, she was.
Yeah,
she
into the
was. She
slave
was
trade,
going to the
yeah.
meat market.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you're right.
So, I
That's
mean, that happens
exactly-
a lot on
So
this show
she
with
should
women.
feel very
so.
strongly about this kind of
Yeah.
thing.
So, yeah, I think just for Gabrielle, she's kind of equating, human trafficking and with beauty pageanting, just these kind of horrible exploitation things. So in her mind, it's very, very bad to be in a beauty pageant. Not empowering whatsoever.
Our French bulldog does not approve of human trafficking.
Oh.
So Xena's response is to say that war makes everyone a victim.
And then she goes, so, meet Miss Amphipolis. Does this amazing turnaround.
And she's ready for it. Ready for the runway.
Right?
She's
It's
so
like,
into it.
she's ready to go with that.
Yeah, so that was the teaser, and that's exciting.
We haven't talked about it, but this is Lucy's first episode since returning from her
That's right.
injury.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. She's up and about and doing a runway spin.
Yeah, I guess, like, if you didn't know and you didn't, like, know that every episode has to feature a fight, then you would never guess that, you know, this happened to her.
No, it's
No, not
She
at
seemed
all.
totally normal. Because it's not like she wasn't even, like, walking stiff or anything. Like, she was, like, jaunting around.
Would we say this episode would never have happened otherwise?
I think it would, knowing the direction of the show beyond this season, like, it would have eventually happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. Big
It
time.
might not have happened this early, but they totally would have got here.
Okay.
And also, Lucy has a history of competing in pageants, right? She's Miss New Zealand.
I don't know if that was a competition.
Yeah, I think it was
a
just
it was like a contest. It wasn't a contest. It was like you were chosen. Like she was chosen to
She
be.
just, like, sent in her headshot. And
No. I think it was just like,
You're a cool New Zealand person. You're Miss New
and it was
Zealand.
between her and someone else, and yeah, I don't think she was ever a
She
pageant
never,
queen.
she
Although
never
that
had
was
to,
like,
wear the outfit and do the
No.
talent.
see her doing that. Oh my god! I'm like, now I'm trying to picture it.
I can see it perfectly fine. Phil can't see it.
No, it's like no, that did not ever happen.
So we're back in our favorite castle
Oh yeah,
from season 1.
It's Kingy's castle.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've been talking about Warrior Princess, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, it's a quite intentional callback.
And Xena is like wearing Ares's cape from The Reckoning to hide her outfit
Oh.
because she's like doesn't have, you know, her look yet.
And one of the contestants, I think, just kind of starts ragging at her for being tall and calls her
Yeah.
a clod.
Yeah, she's like, oh, can you see from up there?
So she's already kind of called out for being sort of different.
Lucy's life is hard.
Lucy's life is hard. It made me think of this quote from her about Intimate Stranger, where she said that a lot of, like, Hudson's physicality, she was uncomfortable trying to mimic because she felt it was for someone much more petite and that she would look stupid doing it. And
Makes sense.
I felt it. You could feel her sort of insecurity as a tall person.
Which, again, I wanted to see that in the episode. I needed to see them adjust to their big, small bodies. But this is not a discussion about that episode, unfortunately.
Sidebar, this is not related to anything. It's just related to tall people. I have been watching that web series Carmilla, and there is a character in it who is like 100 feet tall, and they keep calling her Xena. And I find it delightful.
I'm glad
That's
somebody
amazing.
remembers that Xena exists.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
There's also a significant look between Xena and another contestant.
Miss Artifice.
Do we already know who that is?
No?
So-
we don't know her name.
We don't know any of the contestants
Yeah,
yet.
just her and a contestant have a look and then part ways.
Would you call it a look of recognition?
I would.
Yeah,
They see each other
Yeah.
and know each other.
right.
They know they're different from
Yeah.
everybody else at this pageant. Partially because everybody else at this pageant is currently either juggling or doing, like, ribbons.
Yeah,
They're
they're
standing around
practicing.
practicing their very, very silly talents.
But at least it's not that Cups talent from Miss Congeniality.
That's an amazing talent.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Playing the rims of the water glasses, I think, is an amazing talent.
Yeah.
It is.
She created a whole like symphony out of this.
I mean, if we were in a beauty contest, we'd have to have podcasting as our talent.
Oh, yeah. We're so
Don't
good.
think we would win. So let's talk about Gabs as the Marchesa.
Yes, let's.
Okay, let's start with the outfit.
Fortune teller from Queens.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
And what's the Marchesa's accent all about?
I wrote down specifically what I was like, what is this accent? And you were like, vaguely Eastern European fancy? But as it kept going, we
Yes.
figured out.
The trigger word for us was contestant. And we were like, oh, she's French.
she's French.
And then we were like, oh, that's dumb because her name is the Marquesa. We should have known.
Yeah.
So I think that was a French accent.
I think
Yeah.
French question mark is I think what the accent is.
Yeah.
Emphasis on the question mark.
But I mean the fact that Gabs is playing this role of this fancy lady who's entering Miss Amphipolis in the pageant. Like, what is their relationship? As I've already intimated,
Yeah.
like everybody else in the pageant, like every sponsor has a romantic relationship with the contestant. What does everybody think is going on with the Marquesa and Miss Amphipolis?
Well, they were weirded out. They did have a conversation where
the
they're
contestants
like,
do. Yeah.
like saying that it is confusing to them that a woman would enter another woman in this pageant.
But that
Yeah.
seems almost like, how could you, like, put another woman through this nonsense?
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
I know. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So that is what they're thinking. But clearly there's just a romantic relationship between the Marquesa
I also
and
really,
Miss Amphipolis.
really kind of
Her
like
girlfriend.
that all the warlords who Gabs is now, like, rubbing shoulders with kind of accept her and respect her. There's
Yeah.
never, unlike Xena, who's immediately shunned by the other contestants, like the warlords are like, oh, hello, Marquesa, you totally belong with us. Which is weird because they seem like they should be really sexist because they're entering their girlfriends in this pageant mostly against their will.
But her outfit matches their outfits, so
that-
they
yeah,
accept her.
They accept class much
Yeah.
easier than they really care about sex.
And they, like, listen to her. you
Yeah,
know? They
no,
start taking her
there's
advice and stuff.
absolutely like a level of equality here.
Yeah.
They do not like have a problem with her being who she is.
So Simonius leads Xena to meet Miss Massini for some reason.
I guess so. He's like introducing her to all the major.
But he goes to her room specifically.
yeah, and she's practicing.
Yeah, she's practicing her harp.
Which, as you remember, Xena can't play
Right.
Warrior Princess.
And she gets really excited about the harp, and we were like, oh, she's going to try to play it again. No, she sees that there's, like, a trigger on it. If the harp is plucked, then the arrow would come and kill her.
She rips out the chakram, and chakram's the crossbow that's like in the ceiling, and then catches it and quickly shoves it into Salmonius's hands. And this is actually the second time that Salmonius gets to like take the credit for something heroic that Xena's done. Like at the beginning on the beach, like he sort of runs up and is like, "That was all me. I saved you, ladies."
Oh, yeah.
And here too, he's like, "It was me. It was me." That seems to be part of the kind of quiet gender commentary here, is that if Xena's being female, that means she doesn't get to like be openly saving people.
But she also can't be Xena.
She also can't
Here.
be Xena here.
And
Yeah.
I liked how he was like hot potato with the chakram.
Look, if someone thrust that into my hands, I'd be scared too.
Yeah, I
I'm
would
gonna
slice my
cut
fingers
something.
off
Yeah.
immediately.
We also meet the matron of the pageant.
I did not know how to react to this character.
Was this character necessary at the end of the
I
day?
always thought, I thought she was gonna do something or like be behind it all.
was
She
not.
was so shady and
She was
just
like
there.
threatening.
Maybe something got cut.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I did think her relationship with Xena was maybe interesting isn't the right word, but like I was always trying to figure out what was like why the hostility. Like I felt like she made Xena really, really nervous.
You were always supposed to, I feel like, think that the matron was about to figure something out
Yeah.
about Xena specifically,
Yeah.
but never did.
Yeah, somehow because she's like an older woman, she should somehow be able to see through Xena's disguise to the real woman. That seemed to be the kind of the fear somehow that the contestants weren't going to do that, but this older person could. I don't know. It was weird.
Was she ever a contestant herself?
She says the things that imply she is not beautiful enough to do that.
So there's this element of jealousy. It kind of reminded me of in The Handmaid's Tale, the Marthas. Sorry, this is for everybody who knows The Handmaid's Tale. They're kind of like jealous of the ladies who get to be the handmaids, and but they can't themselves. So there's a lot of shade on their part.
I mean, I kind of liked her inclusion, even though it doesn't quite fit into the plot in some perfect way. Because, yeah, it is like a sort of a different picture of, you know, a woman in this story about different kinds of women.
Yeah, I think she does seem to come in to provide more of the specific commentary about, like, brains, / beauty, you
Yeah.
know? She says that, like, oh, if I had half your looks, I'd fool the world or whatever.
Yeah.
Just the idea that you can't be beautiful and smart.
She'd rule the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just started thinking about dumb John Hamm on 30 Rock. 'Cause he's so
Oh my God,
handsome.
the bubble.
But you can just get so far ahead if you're just so beautiful.
He poaches his salmon in Gatorade. It's only one of his things I remember.
That's very memorable. I was just going to say salmon Gatorade.
He also provided us with I want to go to there.
Oh.
He didn't say it, but
That
he
her
used the there
daughter.
there.
Yeah. So yeah, the matron, I mean, yeah, she just kind of was like, oh, almost figures out something about Xena, but then it's really like, I'm sure of it. Your robe is inside out.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, and it was.
She should have just been like, this is a cooler way to wear it. I'm fashionable. Then you have this scene where all of the warlords are up in arms about everything that's going on in the pageant. Like the one who's upset because his contestant was attacked by the goons on the beach, and the one obviously who's upset that his contestant almost got darted while trying to play her harp. And I liked this moment that Gaz gets to call them all out on just like basically erasing the personhood of their contestants and just being like, how dare you do this to me? Which was good. She does this a lot this episode, which is that she gets to be in this role as this like awesome, rich lesbian who's like kind of schooling the dudes in how to behave. And they just kind of go with it. Yeah.
But she's starting to also be really into winning.
Yes. Gabs has forgotten why they're there. It really didn't take long. I think as soon as she started doing the French ? Accent, she forgot.
Very method.
Yeah. Oh, super method.
Now we get to meet some of the contestants in a hot tub sauna setting situation. And they're talking about the new girl. And also via this conversation, we get to find out a little bit more about them personally. So, like, for instance, Palatine would get more food for her village if she was, like, in this pageant. And Skiros just wants to get away from it. Get away from it all once she wins, let's say.
And Xena sees that she has scarring underneath her shoulder blade, which is never explicitly explained. But...
And this is the one who was mean to her for being tall.
Right. This is the one who's the most sort of unpleasant as a person, but you can tell that she's really seen stuff. She's damaged,
And they leave, and Xena is left alone in the sauna, and she's trapped.
She can't get out.
She's gonna get sauna to death.
So she takes off her towel and does the like towel snap move from Deathmatch.
Yes.
You know, that baby Xena used to do to Taurus. Was that his name? I've already forgotten his name.
He doesn't exist.
He doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We remember nothing about him.
Did you call him Hercatorus?
Yes.
Okay.
You heard me.
I get it. I got it.
Yeah, so she snaps at the like little grate and lets some steam out. And presumably
survives.
Yes,
presumably she lived through this sauna experience.
It's good. It's good. You have all these like, you know, towel ladies in the shower room, but then she gets to use the towel for survival. A++.
Yeah, and it's one of those moments where, you know, it should be sort of like, ooh, Xena's naked, but it's just
it becomes something else.
It's in service to escaping. It's like a cool badass moment.
I love when Xena's badass while naked.
Yeah, that's true. That is a thing the show does very well consistently.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Because Xena has been trapped in the sauna, she is late for the first event.
And as established, the rules state that if you miss an event, you lose, which makes sense. I don't know why they keep saying it.
It's like a real big thing, okay? You cannot miss it. They're trying to like underline that. And Gabs and Solomon are freaking out.
But lo and behold, Miss Amphipolis appears when it's her turn.
And she has an earring, right?
Does she? Oh, she found in the sauna. Yeah, she knows who locked her in there based on
we don't know that yet.
Yeah, we don't know that yet. She's wearing a fabulous gold outfit, and she's blonde. She has a very obvious blonde wig.
She looks great.
And she's kind of into it. I feel like this is the little bit where Xena's beginning to get into the pageant. She's enjoying sort of the pageantry of pageanting.
I see. I see. But she has gone very explicitly a way. She's chosen to be a blonde, which I feel like is a choice, right? I mean,
But
well,
did
maybe
she
did
choose
she
it?
might have not
They
chosen it. They
chose
gave
that
it to
outfit
her.
for her.
But the show has chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she's, I feel like, saying, well, in order to win this, I need to be like the opposite of Xena Warrior Princess. And that means blonde.
Slightly higher voiced.
Higher voice. Sort of a little bit of the Princess Diana performance.
But not quite.
Not
quite.
fully embracing it. And definitely, like, almost from beginning to end, there's a lot of irony in it. She rarely totally engages with it sincerely. She's always a little bit like, okay, forced smile, we're doing this. But this moment here that we're talking about, she seemed more into it.
We also see, while this is happening, because she's late, the event is going, and this is where we hear the name of that contestant who gave her the recognized look, and that is Miss Artifice. What is the first event?
Clothes?
Parading on stage.
She was just close.
Yeah.
Show your outfits.
Wear a dress.
Yeah, okay,
Wave.
sure.
We should talk about Miss Artifice, who now we see her steal Xena's.
Well, we don't know who steals it.
We don't know
but
that.
somebody
They
has
haven't
stolen
confronted- yeah.
her warrior outfit from a trunk.
Yeah.
But then, like, the next scene, she does confront Miss Artifice.
There was a fun
about-
POV, like, sneaky cam going to the trunk, and then it's just, like, someone grabbing Xena's whole
Yeah.
outfit.
When I first saw this episode, I assumed from that spooky point of view shot that it was someone who's going to, like, take her weapons and, like, use them to kill somebody. Because we know that this pageant is going to be sabotaged somehow. But no, it's something much more benign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But also, this whole episode is about costumes and doing stuff. So it is kind of the more interesting choice.
I agree. And we've talked about this, again, in Warrior Princess, when Diana and then later Warrior Princess Meg were... Warrior Princess Meg! That's basically what it is. But when
she'd like it if you called her that.
When Meg wears Xena's armor and Diana wear that armor, you realize it is a costume that other women can wear and be the warrior princess, and that is a role that people can play. So I feel continuing that idea here into Miss Amphipolis, Miss Artifice, is stealing and appropriating this costume and sort of showing how it is, in some sense, a disguise.
Exactly.
I think it's just fair game that whenever Xena enters this kingdom, somebody gets to wear her outfit. So she confronts Miss Artifice because that's her earring that she found, and it is then revealed that Miss Artifice is a man.
Xena rips off her wig.
A little rude.
I think,
Yeah, it was rude.
That's not okay in a reality show. That would lead to, like, full-on murder.
So it would be a really good high ratings episode.
Someone would throw a drink. Yeah.
Miss Artifice locked her in the steam room because she wanted her to be late, or like what? That wasn't to kill her.
No, Miss Artifice is afraid that Xena is going to expose her, is going to tell the judges that she's a man.
But she wasn't trying to murder her in the steam room.
No, she said she was locking her in and that she was going to come back and get her later. But luckily, she'd already escaped. So, I mean, maybe you don't believe this story now that I'm re-saying it. It does sound very shady. So,
well, Xena's really cool with the fact that this is how it is.
yeah. I mean, for Xena, her priorities are she's here to find out who's trying to murder people at this pageant.
Yeah.
Miss Artifice is there for completely legitimate reasons in Xena's worldview, and she's down with it. Yeah. I do really love that line that Miss Artifice says, I knew you know about me. Like that repetition of knowing, the sense that these two people are kind of like relating to each other on a different level from everyone else. There's sort of this like coded language that passes between them.
So on that note, like, how do we feel about the name Miss Artifice?
Should there be a coin?
Should there be? I mean, that in a way is a question.
Because
Should there be a coin?
That's my question. It's just like, clearly the choice of that name is pointing to the fact immediately that Miss Artifice is a man. But at the same time, like for me, I feel like it's a like slightly more pointed choice just about this episode going full on into like camp mode and bringing like drag into everything, where everything is about sort of making these exaggerated choices about gender and like deconstructing gender. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that it's saying that. It's not. I don't think it's saying like, oh, haha, this is actually a male. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's much more of a commentary than it is just trying to tell the audience something.
I'm not sure what the intention is. Like, I can definitely see them just sort of picking that because they think it's cheeky. But at the same time, I do think that in an episode that is about kind of everybody playing roles, like Xena herself is playing this elaborate game of pretend. So is Gabs. And all the contestants, to certain degrees, are kind of fronting something. Like, everybody here has a level of artifice. And they're in a beauty pageant, which is just about the most artificial like thing you can imagine. So what does it mean that this character is Miss Artifice when, as Xena immediately intuits, she sort of has more of a right to be there than anyone, because she actually wants to be there. Right. She cares about this.
Exactly.
Yeah. She's sincere in a way that nobody else in the story is, which I think is why she's kind of the hero.
I'm sorry, guys. I know you're talking a really intense thing, but all I've just been thinking about is how awesome it is that this is called Miss Known World.
It is great.
It's really fun.
It's really
Miss Known
awesome.
World.
I think it may be my favorite part of this whole episode, honestly.
And the song is really great.
Yeah, it's just so clever.
Fabulous song.
Really clever.
I'm really glad they had Robert Tremore there to sing too. He's so much fun as this MC.
We're basically on the first time that he sings, which is event 2. They have to do a little bit of dressing Xena up before this. So Gabs is like stuffing her into this gown. And we have this great line where she's like, the power, the passion.
The desire to win.
Oh my God.
French?
The podcast?
I love when she gets like really into something, Gabrielle.
That's
like
every episode.
I know, but it's about food, like winning. She's just so
Does it remind
enthusiastic
you? Does it remind
about
you of Monica from Friends?
Maybe a little, but not in that competitive, annoying way.
It's true. It doesn't seem like pure competition. To me, it's partially, like, I assume that Gabs is reacting to the douchiness of these dudes. Like, she wants to beat them. She wants to gloat.
She just wants to win.
You think so?
She totally just wants to. She entered that competition and was like, we're going to win.
Also because she's convinced that Xena is the most beautiful woman in the known world.
Yeah,
so
that's right. She should win. I mean, it's just like Miss Congeniality, where Michael Caine also legitimately wants her to win.
Well, I think, once you're engaged in a contest, how can you be good at your job unless you sincerely want your contestant to win?
Everybody sucks at this choreography.
Oh my God.
And it is really funny.
Yeah, it's a little unclear what went wrong here. Like, their costumes are really cumbersome. These, like, headpieces, they seem to just get tangled up in each other's robes.
They all stink.
At first I thought it was, like, deliberately, that they were, like, elbowing each other, like, jockeying for, like, prominence. But then I just think it was, like, awkward and weird. But what's funny about it is it makes, like, Salmonius look really good. Like, he goes through, he looks great. He sounds great in the scene. It's like this beauty pageant about all these, parade of beautiful women. But at the end of it, you're like, that middle-aged bearded man is very charming. We should talk a little bit about the significance of his song, A Woman is a Natural Thing. This is an episode in which femininity doesn't seem that natural at all. It seems like a lot of effort and work and frustration and feelings.
And feelings.
Lots of feelings. Yeah, and this to me, that's the thesis, right?
Exactly.
Of this whole episode is that a woman is not a natural thing, and that there are many different ways of being a woman, and that it's awkward and complicated for everybody trying to figure out their place.
Sometimes people give Xena a dress and she has to look into that mirror of heterosexuality and she just like cannot stay in that dress for 1 second.
Yeah, so I mean you can trace these themes all the way back to that second episode, to Chariots of War.
Yeah, totally. I think this episode does a pretty good job with these themes in what is actually just a rather light episode.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, having Xena compete in a beauty pageant is immediately like, this is going to be nobody's favorite episode.
No,
probably.
I know.
I loved it.
I mean, it's like
It's really fun.
and that brings me back to I think how we started with that Liz Friedman quote. This isn't like super subtextual, obviously, but it is just something where you're watching a really kind of lighthearted episode of a syndicated fantasy series that's like putting all this stuff out there. It's awesome.
And it's funny, we keep referencing like Drop Dead Gorgeous and Miss Congeniality, which we're also sort of like trying to reckon with beauty pageants and what is our, as a culture, why are we obsessed with them? And like, is this feminist? Is this bad? Like, what is it doing to us that we put women on display like this? Xena's doing it first. I say that sincerely. Like years before, it's looking at the way that we put women on display and hold up a certain kind of woman as being like the ideal and reckoning with that in a way that is pretty serious in the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so good.
Chris Manheim has risen much higher in my book since her beginnings on this show.
Well, she's going to get even higher later when we get to my favorite episode of all times.
So now we're on to the
Semifinals.
Yes. And this is a really great moment where someone is just like, introducing the contestants on stage, and we have some delightful factoids about them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Just you get these random babes.
Well, I feel like the whole idea of this known world, here's where it could shine, this idea of a beauty pageant for the ancient world. These are some very funny facts about each contestant. Vera, let's hear some.
All right, so Miss Skiros, there was a really great line about how she comes from a place that makes marble.
As cool as the marble her country is known for.
I loved that.
You get you guys watched pageants. This feels like it's being directly taken,
100%.
the speech patterns
because
of that.
Everybody loves being somehow equated with the export for their region.
No, but you know what I mean.
I am the sellable good. Yes.
No, they parade in front, and it's when it's your turn. The Mr. Voice says, what you do.
So that she's not just a pretty face, but a pretty face who comes from a place where they sell marble.
Excellent.
So Miss Skiros, her hobbies include music, exotic dancing, and sacrificing to the gods. Her favorite deity is Aphrodite.
Her favorite deity?
Yeah, is Aphrodite. Sorry. So then out comes Miss Amphipolis.
Hey!
She's a country girl.
She's a country girl at heart.
And she enjoys the simple things.
Like weaving tapestries, making candles, and doing volunteer work for her local Hestian virgins.
Aww.
Miss Amphipolis would have a really good Etsy.
Yo, can we imagine Xena making candles? What is that?
No.
But she has many skills, guys.
I know she could do it. She can do a lot of stuff.
She just won't.
So then Parnassus jumps up.
Oh, and it's like, this is Xena Warrior Princess. And Xena's like, oh no, I've been exposed. It's all over. But then, no, it's Miss Artifice who's chosen to come out for this part of the competition in Xena's costume, which is an interesting choice. Later, the warlords are kind of talking about it as if it was like a stunt. Why do we think she did it?
Because it's awesome.
Yeah, she took one look at that and said, this will get me noticed. This is what a beautiful woman wears.
Do you think it was like a challenge at Xena, like a secret challenge, like a wink challenge?
I mean, in a way it is, because after she reveals herself, she sort of says, okay, you have a secret too, we'll keep each other's secrets. Yeah. So it is a kind of way of being like, okay, I've got something on you now, you're gonna keep me safe. But at the same time, to me, she's wearing it in the competition. We're kind of completing the circle.
Yeah.
We were saying that Xena needed to ditch her warrior princess costume in order to be taken seriously as a beauty contestant. Now we have a beauty contestant saying, actually, your costume worn in the context of a beauty pageant is beautiful and a showstopper, and I'm going to wear it.
I love it.
Well, Miss Artifice's hobbies are archery and horse breeding, and knowing the complete score of every musical ever written.
Okay. Yeah. That seems...
This is a joke.
I know a lot of musicals as well. It is a joke. But first, Livy comes out and says, honey, I'm no princess, I'm a queen.
Which
is a great line.
Is a great line.
And then, then Game of Thrones stole it later. Not a queen, a Khaleesi.
Oh.
Xena did it first.
Well, I think this is one of the better jokes in the episode about drag. Clearly, this is winking towards Karen Dior's career as a drag performer. She's a queen.
It was a really great line.
Yeah.
And delivery, too. Okay, my note says, so all the ones we know make it to the semifinals.
Of course.
And this is where the reaction shot comes in. I think you were talking about, Katie, of like a disappointed contestant who didn't make it.
Oh, yeah. I just really liked that there was a lingering shot on one of them, I think looking at their sponsor/boyfriend. And it didn't really need to be there so much, I think. It was just this moment where you see her looking either like worried or disappointed. And it reminded me of like a previously mentioned thing from Game of Thrones. To continue the Game of Thrones talk, in an episode that Michelle MacLaren directed that kind of just like made sure to catch these reactions from like minor characters or even extras, which brings us to the fact that this was directed by a woman. And I feel like those touches are there because of that. And more lady directors, please.
Yeah, you feel that not just the 4 characters who you meet over the course of the story, but every woman on that stage has some story.
This may have been the character. Yeah. Was this the character who had the marks on her back?
No. This is one of our named characters.
Okay. That was actually an extra.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's really expanding the cast a little bit in a nice way.
So it is actually a good parallel with that.
Yeah. Good parallel.
And then in the crowd, so since all of the ones that we don't make it, you have the reactions of the sponsors in the crowd, and Gabs is so happy. She's like, Miss A all the way.
You go, girl.
Oh, my God.
Oh, it's the 90s. Let's remember that. Let's constantly remember and contextually put this thing in the 1990s.
I mean, this is like 100% so important to remember that this episode takes place in the 90s because, like, well, it doesn't take place in the 90s, you know what I mean? But, like, the Birdcage came out, like, the year before. This is very much using, like, drag in this very specific way. That to me is like so 90s, where they're like, drag is so much fun, everybody likes it, let's put it on screen, but also, laugh at it a little bit. So it's like having the cake and eat it too. That to me is, we'll problematic jar for it.
Problematic jar for keeping
far
things
we're
in their time
actually
period.
they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
They won't make it to the end. They won't be able to resist. Anyway.
It's time for the talent portion of the competition, and Xena does not have a talent.
Uh-oh.
That is so absurd. She has so many skills. She can embroider.
She can make the candles.
She can do like gymnastics.
I loved this conversation between her and the Marquesa. Because it just starts when they're talking about talent, and Gabs is like, I don't know why you're like refusing to sing. That, of course, should be her talent.
But the thing is, Xena should have said this. The only song I can sing is a funeral dirge.
So it would have been beautiful and moving.
But she said that she only does it like when she's moved.
In a way, that actually is her excuse. I sing my funeral dirge when someone I know dies. If someone I know is not dead, I cannot sing it.
Then just Gabrielle like acquiesces to this by going, as a bard and a fellow creative artist, I understand.
That is such a Hannah from Girls reaction.
It's so true.
Oh my God.
Saying as a fellow creative artist, I understand is the most Hannah from Girls response I've ever heard. Oh, I'm seeing Gabs really differently now.
It's just so funny. It was just funny. I don't know.
I also have to call out the way this conversation is shot.
We should have been talking about this immediately.
Xena's legs, for some reason, are the star of the scene.
Yeah.
They're just like
they are
Mrs.
there.
Robinsoning the fuck out of everything.
It is such a Graduate like poster shot.
And
Gabs,
I think Gabs was not aware.
intentional.
Unlike the Graduate, Gabs just like pretends like they're not there. Maybe it's easier for her.
Oh
She's
my
just
God.
like, I don't see them. But then Xena's top half is like
Okay. Yes.
It's like fingering a knife.
Oh boy.
She's like talking about her talent while kind of caressing a blade, and then she has her like sexy legs. It's such
they're just oiled up and right there.
I don't know what's happening.
Giant
I feel
in the
like there's a
screen.
porn that would start with this setup.
Oh,
boy.
we've been talking about female directors. Is this a bad? What is happening?
No, it's
A
great.
porn?
It's a
You say?
strange I mean, you don't often see Xena shot this way, which
Yeah.
is part of why I'm so... What's going on about this? I think it's partially the fact that she isn't in her
Close.
customary outfit. She's wearing, I guess, a robe in this moment, and her legs are just kind of oiled up and out there. And, But I do think there is something about, the fact that she is in a beauty pageant. Suddenly, you can kind of do this with your camera. Like, it almost gives the camera permission to
Interesting.
treat her like an object.
Well, here's a question. Now, because this is a female director, why doesn't she have the right to just decide to film it this way, with the legs like that? Because if a male director did, like, you'd immediately go, oh my God. And then you'd go, all right, well, it's about beauty pageants, so we'll give it a pass kind of thing. But I'd say, as any good sitting alert for Xena, that was an empowering shot.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Again, the top hat. With the knife.
What are you doing? You hurt torso? What are you talking about?
I just mean, there are literally 2 shots, okay? One shot is just her legs. That's one shot. That's the shot of
being
Gabs.
dissected by this camera, you're saying.
Yeah. The shot of Gabs has Xena's legs in it. The shot of Xena has Xena caressing a knife.
Gotcha.
So I feel like you almost have Warrior Princess on the front part and Miss Amphipolis below.
Interesting.
I would argue that both halves are powerful.
Okay.
They are.
Yeah,
Both
so-
halves are powerful.
That's why she's a warrior and a princess.
It's just an amazing choice. Thank you, Marina.
Xena then puts on her dress for the talent competition.
Yeah, it's like real bad. It is it's kind of hilariously similar to the German-inspired dress that Sandra Bullock wears in Miss Congeniality. Because a lot of like pom-pom situations, a lot of big sleeves.
I guess I have a few, I don't really remember what the clothes were like in these
In the 90s?
Yeah, well, in pageants in the 90s. It's a very specific context.
Not like that. Dude, this is
But were they
supposed to
like
be old
big?
world.
Were there like a lot of rosettes?
No way. Maybe in the 80s.
Maybe.
I don't think in the
Yeah.
90s.
This to me felt very 80s.
Yeah.
This outfit, just the like cut of it, the shape. Though it's clearly made so that like Xena can come in with the dagger and just slash it. Yeah. And they did something to the footage. I think they like sped it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess
make
Lucy
it
Lawless
funnier.
didn't know.
No,
how
they do that. They
you
choose
think
to
so?
do that stuff for
That's
like funny
kind of a
stuff.
cartoon
Yeah.
beat.
Yeah. But yeah, Gabrielle really had a problem with this outfit.
So she's like listing things that are just bad, like in comparison to this hideous outfit. And one of the things she says is chartreuse is bad, right? So chartreuse is not typically the world's most flattering color. But when does this episode air?
January 1997.
January 1997. So I'm going to say maybe 3 months later. That was the year that Nicole Kidman wore that fantastic chartreuse dress to the Academy Awards. So, like, she was sitting around and she was watching this. And she was like, chartreuse is bad, you say? And then was like, I'll show you. And then wore that badass dress to the Oscars.
Yeah.
For sure, that's what happened. So, like, chartreuse is not always bad. And that is the one time it was great.
I didn't even think it looked chartreuse, to be honest with you. It looked gold to me.
Yeah, it
No.
totally looked gold to me.
It was definitely chartreuse.
Wow, maybe I have colorblind issues. Well, Xena is like, don't worry, I got it. And she uses that knife and
Make some
rips-
quick alterations.
Yeah, a lot of...
And I think this is definitely one of her many skills. I think she could be a tailor. Like, that dress looks amazing. It's almost like it was sewn to look like that.
It was hidden underneath all that.
Whoa!
Yeah, so that now that's when the matron comes in and is like, "Wow, you're like real handy
Good with a
that
knife.
And
Dun dun dun.
she literally goes, "I have
many skills,"
which is great because.
But she says it in her persona as Miss Amphipolis, which is a really cute use of the catchphrase because she usually says it like, "I have many skills," in this real straight deadpan.
Well, it was.
Like, I have many skills.
It was like opposite. Remember in Black Wolf when they were like, "Oh, you crochet or whatever."
Needlepoint, no. Embroider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, "I have many skills," because that's like a feminine thing
Yeah.
for Xena to do. And here's like the feminine character who has knife skills.
That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a fun inversion of kind of the gender games that Xena's always playing. So her talent turns out to be
amazing.
How is it? Sword
twirling. Yep, and it's fucking glorious.
Is that what we call
Baton
it?
twirling.
It's basically glorified baton twirling.
Yeah,
but with
badass.
swords.
Yeah, but with swords.
It was amazing. They
says,
shot it on the beach.
It's not Sophocles, but it will do. There's a line.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shot it on the beach, and I almost think they should replace the glorious Lucy Lawless title card with this image.
In the dress.
She was so fantastic. It was like really impressive. It was Lucy doing this shit.
That is Lucy doing this shit after falling off a horse
right.
2 months before. So I'm just like, what the fuck, girl? What are you doing?
I loved it. Yeah. And so she's like on, basically like the cliff where they do the credits.
Yeah.
And then, like, to her right is Miss Massini and her harp.
This giant wooden harp that I guess she carried out to the beach?
Yeah, I don't know.
She's just
She just needed to get out and play that harp by the water.
Well, she can't have anyone hear her practicing.
Yeah.
I guess
That'd give the game away.
I have never dragged a harp around, so I don't know.
It's pretty big.
Seems like it's fairly cumbersome and maybe not something you want to drag to the cliffs of the beach.
Miss Massini is the one character who we don't know her motivations at this point for joining the pageant. We know that the two other contestants, one is doing it for food, one is doing it to escape. But Miss Massini, it turns out, is there kind of to make her boyfriend happy?
Ugh.
Yeah.
What?
Ugh.
What?
Yeah.
Ugh.
She didn't want to hurt his feelings.
This is where I need to bring in the best my favorite murder catchphrase, which is fuck politeness. That is just the awfulest.
Yeah.
It's so sad. She didn't want to hurt his feelings.
Yeah,
Ugh.
Xena's like, what about your feelings?
Don't they count? And she's like, they never have before. Well, I think she should really take Miss Skiros' lead and escape also. But that is not...
Together, maybe.
Yeah.
And then they can kiss.
I would be all for that version of events. But no, Xena kind of gives her a pep talk about how she just needs to stick up for herself in this relationship. Okay.
Here's I'm going to tangent for a second and discuss the actress who plays Massini here. Because she was in an episode of Farscape, and she was really amazing because she was just like a day player. It was in early season 2. And she just really stood out. Look up that episode. I don't know.
Wait, which episode is it?
She plays a shapeshifter, or like somebody that the shapeshifter shifted into. She's like a nurse. And she's just like really good. So, I mean, I didn't remember that she was like in this episode. When I watched that, but like when we watched this, I looked her up and I was like, oh, she's from that Fringe episode. Oh my god, she's great.
I think her and Skiros in this episode are both really intriguing presences. Like, you do feel like there's a lot going on behind their eyes in the story about artifice. I have this note, and I'm not sure if it referred to Skiros or to Massini about seeing past looks to the person underneath. Do you guys remember?
Wow, that is a deep note, and no.
It definitely applies to one of them. They're both like, boo-hoo, I'm a beautiful woman, and that's all, like, my partner ever sees of me. I think it actually is Massini who says that. She's talking about her boyfriend who, like, talks about how beautiful she is all the time and makes her feel weird. That is what this episode, again, is about. It's the way that someone's physical presentation doesn't necessarily match with how they feel about themselves or who they are.
My very deep note says, "Uh-oh, evil sawing on pageant stage."
Oh.
Because it's another, like, who's doing it? Someone's trying to sabotage
I
still.
don't think you can have a pageant if something doesn't fall from the stage.
Every single one of these movies
Yeah.
is, and like TV show episodes is about this. And
Yeah.
it's always the same answer. It's like the person running the fucking thing. It's always that.
I think it's because of everybody's anxieties about like the fact that these things exist. So who could be the villain in an episode about a pageant? It has to be the person who said, "Let's have a pageant."
I love pageants so much. I work
my
here
gosh.
now. Oh no.
Oh, Drop Dead Gorgeous is the best movie.
It is.
Oh,
I think
everybody watch
because it really takes it to this dark place. Like
Yeah.
unlike the Xena episode and Miss Congeniality,
Yeah.
Drop Dead Gorgeous basically says that pageants are terrible. It's not like rethink things, you know, open your eyes and accept that pageants are actually really empowering. It's like, no, are you kidding? People die.
Oh, man.
So Xena's been going around basically, whether intentionally or not, kind of giving pep talks to all these contestants. So she just talked to Massini and gave her that pep talk, and now she runs into Skiros.
Skiros is spying on who she thinks is
That was
Miss
great,
Amphipolis through a keyhole, and Xeno's like, "What am I doing now?"
Yeah.
And she like gives some answer before realizing what's happening. Just a cute comedy beat.
Yeah, it was really cute.
But this is also good because it shows that Skiros is the most sort of, she has wiles. She's spying on the other contestants. She actually is very competitive about this.
She really wants to win.
Yeah, she wants to escape. Which, I mean, girl, yeah. Your priorities are correct. She's the one who's explicitly framed as a war survivor, even
Yeah.
though all of them presumably are. They're
Yeah.
all from the same war-torn place. But Skiros apparently really saw some shit.
And now we get to see their amazing talents at work.
Yes. So I think everybody's not good.
Yeah, I think we're supposed
It
to
took me
see
like a
this.
second. I was like,
Well-
I think that's bad harp.
So, I mean, yeah,
Playing.
maybe we're not musically gifted, but Salmonius's reaction gives you a hint. As to
And we've
what
heard
you're
him
supposed
sing,
to.
so we know he knows
Yeah.
what good music sounds like.
So poor sweet Massini, not good at harp.
No.
And then Artifice does the ribbon dance.
Not good either, I don't think. Because N's like all trapped up in it.
Yeah.
Like, just,
I think that's intentional,
tangled.
but is it good?
is it intentional?
She's
Yeah.
very winning, but yeah, the fact that she has to like sort of shimmy off the
Yeah,
stage.
that seems like it was a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
well.
also just ribbon dancing.
Skiros does snake charming.
This is kind of a badass talent. Not that we ever really get to see it at its full potential, but I would give it to Skiros just based
I don't
on.
know. There's this shot, and we rewound and like watched it several times, and I still claim that at one point in this, the snake charmed her.
It's possible.
Snakes can't hypnotize
I
people.
think the snake hypnotized her back.
Why not?
I mean, in the middle of this, the stage like roof starts collapsing. So maybe that had to do with why she looked so
She was probably
hypnotized.
a little
But
more
I'm saying it was a
concerned.
snake. Yeah, so the stage roof collapses and Xena sort of notices the only person kind of staring at that is Lord.
Claren?
Yeah, the guy who looks like Dan Aykroyd. And AKA the organizer of this fucking thing. But she jumps in to save Skiros and ends up
Drop kicking the snake.
yeah, who screams as it flies up in the air.
And lands beautifully draped over her shoulders.
It's like a nice little scarf. Oh boy.
And yet Skiros isn't angry about this, right? If this were me, I'd be like, bitch, you ruined my talent.
She's been hypnotized by the snake.
So then Xena goes around beating up all the warlords. Just going around, beating them all up, ties them up, puts them under a table, lays a tablecloth over the table, and then kind of mills around there waiting for Lord Claren to come up to her and be like, "Wahaha, it was all me, I did it." Which is like such a weird plan. Just a really weird way of confronting
Yeah.
the baddie.
He wanted to get rich off of the war because that's what he did before. So previously you were like, oh, he was Belgium.
Yeah.
But is he really Switzerland?
Yeah. You're so right. Belgium would never pull this shit.
Oh,
Sorry,
boy.
if you're Swiss or Belgian, we apologize.
So then they fight. Like, he takes out a knife and attacks her, and they brawl. And she throws in a lot of, like, her signature one-liners. There was, like, 3 of them. But the most egregious one was, don't hate me because I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
Pantene.
Yeah. Big catchphrase.
1990s
Pantene
advertising.
commercial. Yeah.
So she has really shiny hair.
Well, normally.
Wearing
Also-
the stupid wig, yeah.
You know, this kind of pointed thing at a feminine beauty product in this whole thing might
About
be
beauty
why it's
being a
was used.
construction, yeah.
Exactly.
Also,
But still,
Clarence.
even so.
Yeah. I mean, I hate all the anachronistics. I mean, not all of it. Some
Yeah.
of the anachronisms are fun, but like actual lines.
Yes, like the long flights.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Sanderson sisters in Hocus Pocus knowing what margarine is.
It is. Yeah.
Like-
it just opens up
Or a
like
driver's permit.
you just have so many questions. You're like, how do you know that? Why would you say that now? What does that mean to you, the character?
Maybe they were sponsored by Pantene. You never know with this show.
I don't know.
Clarence says to her, like, I had no idea that a beauty contestant could be more than the sum of her well-assembled parts. And then he threatens to disassemble them. So he's pretty bad at lines also. But I bring this up because Xena responds, neither did I. So she's learned and grown.
She learned a lesson.
She understands that beauty contestants are more than their well-assembled parts. I'm like, God, low bar, Xena. Jesus. Okay.
And it's time for the winner to be announced. I guess before this happens, she states that Miss Amphipolis has dropped out of the competition.
Well, obviously, after Xena has beaten up the guy running the competition
Yeah.
and tied up all of the sponsors, she has revealed herself to be Xena. So
Right.
she's standing in the wings and announces that Miss Amphipolis has dropped out.
Right. Oh, and someone just freaks out because he's like, no, but she was the winner. So then he goes kind of like down the line of like the next, runner-up, aka winner, is Miss Skiros. And she's like, I quit too. And then he's like, okay, Messini. And then, well, she quits on her own, right? And you were like, what if they weren't next?
Yeah, I don't know how they knew it was next.
Yeah, that's really, really presumptive on their part.
Yeah.
And they're, of course, quitting based on the life lessons that Xena has taught them. They realize that they don't need this pageant to get the things that they need.
Yeah, and Parnassus quits and her guy is like, what about your village? You want him to starve?
This one made me mad. In part because we've had scenes for Skiros and Messini. Like, I get that, okay, they look
Yeah.
at, like, what's going on and say, fine, I don't actually need this. Like, there are better ways of going about this. But poor Parnassus, she was doing it for food for her village, which
Yeah.
I think is a very laudable goal.
Yeah.
But then she starts talking about how, like, her dignity and pride don't deserve this. And I was like, I don't know. Food for your village. Your village would respect you. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to hate yourself for, like, putting on a dress and, like, singing a dumb song. Like, I don't know. I thought this was where the writer may have revealed her hand a bit because I did not buy Parnassus dropping out. And I also feel like she needed a scene with Xena. It is very noticeable in this episode that she doesn't get one. The other two have moments where they kind of confront their situations and think about them anew. This poor woman just looks and says, like, this is exploitative and I don't need this. And I guess I'll just start planting some seeds for my village and we'll starve. And you're like, oh, okay.
So Miss Artifice wins by default and is very happy about it.
Yeah.
I mean, this also bothers me that Miss Artifice has to win by default.
Yeah.
By literally coming up with lazy reasons why the other contestants drop out. I feel like Miss Artifice could have won on her own merits. There was nothing in the episode that would have made that feel unearned. And it sends a message that somehow, that she isn't as deserving as the other women, that they have to drop out before she's allowed to wear that crown. And I think that's really unfair.
Yeah, it comes off not the best way. You like the idea that all these other women who were there for other reasons, that they decided to quit to
starve in their villages.
Well, not the starve. You sort of that one doesn't work, but you sort of like that this episode is showing you how these women have these sort of complex things going on, but just having them drop out.
I understand why Xena dropped out, because Xena wasn't there legitimately in the first place, but the other women were doing it to make a point and to excel and to get something they needed. And I don't feel like Xena, even convinced Gyros and other one, Missini, that it's not worth winning that pageant. But, I mean, they're trying to screw their sponsors, and not in the way their sponsors want to be screwed. So.
Speaking of which.
Everybody's trying to break free of the patriarchy, as says this fun article that I have been reading.
I mean, I kind of do like that in the end it's not a competition. This isn't women pitted against each other.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it does come off as I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it. Well, I do. We don't want Karen Dior to be placed as that character.
Right, I agree with that.
Well, despite that, Miss Artifice is really happy to win and kisses Xena.
Yeah.
Which everybody's like, yay, except for Gabrielle. Who has a really great reaction
she
shot.
has the best reaction. She's all clapping and happy, and then is not amused for someone else to be kissing Xena. Not amused.
Yeah.
And this is just a really sneaky thing for the show to do.
Absolutely.
To have a male identifying performer who's dressed as a woman playing a female character who kisses Xena.
Yeah.
So you have a woman kissing Xena, and for the censors, that's okay.
Right.
And then in the final scene, they finally can't help themselves and make a bunch of pretty stupid jokes about drag queens.
And they're just
Gabrielle.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Okay, you're so close. And actually, we should have been throwing coins in for that entire conversation about Miss Artifice only winning by default.
Okay. Oh, boy.
Hey.
I was going to say the entire ending was just their stand-ins.
Which is their stand-ins. Oh, no, it wasn't.
Lucy Lois needed to lie down after doing that knife juggling thing.
Seriously. Wait, it was a Gab stand-in? I don't remember now.
It was just they were all
seems
from
like
the
I
back.
don't remember anything.
Even Argo's butt. So
it was an Argo butt stand-in.
Argo stand-in.
Yeah, I like that, for the time, I think that was a pretty transgressive thing for the show to be doing. And, I think when we sat down to watch this episode, I was like, oh, what is this going to be like? And at the end of the day, I think it's a fun episode that is not, we did throw a bunch of coins in the jar just now, but I don't think it's overly.
Yeah, I think it's trying.
Yeah,
it's trying to be respectful. It gives this awesome drag queen an opportunity to do something really cool in a genre show.
Yeah.
Which isn't something that happens that much
on
even
broadcast
now.
TV.
Yeah, so I give them points for it, even if obviously they could have done better.
Sure.
But for the 90s, there's a lot of neat stuff happening here. And I do think if you think about it, via these lenses we've tried to use of, femininity and the way in which the whole notion is explored and kind of exploded and subverted in various ways. What is a woman? Is it a performance? These are important questions that the show has always been asking. And I think this episode just kind of shouts them rather than whispering it.
Exactly, yeah. And I think the rest of the show it's going to do more stuff along similar lines. I think later on. We'll get to it
soon.
So did you guys like this episode?
I wouldn't I'm going to sit down and watch an episode of Xena. Would I pick it? maybe not. But like, I relaxed. Yeah, I liked it.
Worth it for
Yeah.
Renee O'Connor's French question mark accent alone.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
And I mean, I like it for being like not typical of the show.
It's also one of the only episodes that has Salmonius in it. This is actually his last episode.
Yeah.
Where he's playing Salmonius proper. Sad to see him go. He's great.
Maybe that's why I really love this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really funny.
Yeah.
I love him
It
so
was
much.
funny, yeah.
Yeah, and I love beauty pageants.
I
Like movies about them and shows about them. So I'm sold. Well, next week we're doing Destiny.
Fuck yeah.
Do you think we're ever going to go back to just consistently doing double-decker episodes?
Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah. We're still in
We will.
the schedule, as previously mentioned, of vacations.
Once we get out of the spring, you might see more.
So you can follow us on all the things.
Oh, yes. You can listen to us on iTunes. Subscribe, rate, leave reviews if you're enjoying it. It's always great to see.
If you just like rate, I think it bumps it up in its podcasty way. That stuff is like really important.
It like makes our algorithm stronger,
Yeah.
and then we turn up in searches, and
other people
more
can
people
find
see it.
the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, spread the love.
Yeah, if you've been listening and haven't considered reviewing, please consider it.
We're on Twitter at Xena Warrior Pod, on Tumblr and Facebook, Xena Warrior Podcast. Good times, everybody. Follow, etc.
The power.
The passion.
The
podcast.
podcast.